Hello, everyone. Welcome to King of Our Nightmares. I'm Jeremy, and I have Noah with me, as per usual, and my dear friend Cody, who has not been on the channel in years. I think you did a review of the first volume of Walking Dead with me.
When we
Oh
were in high school, yes.
no, we were in college because
Were we in college?
I think
It's
it was
long enough.
14. So it's been a long time since you've been on. We're going to talk
Decade,
about
yeah.
Maximum Overdrive, which technically came out before it. I'm sorry, last week's viewers. I did make a mistake, and after I recorded it, I'm like, that came out in the summer. Because as I recall, Maximum Overdrive is a big bomb. It like bombed at the box office.
It bombed
But
so
but
hard.
like we said last week's episode for Skeleton Crew, this is part of the Cocaine trilogy of Stephen King snorted too much coke and decided he could direct a movie, which on this latest viewing I think was supposed to be a parody of what he thought The Shining was like Kubrick's The Shining. And like he just decided, the story goes, this is what he says. He got really tired of the adaptations not living up to his vision, which is kind of weird because we hadn't had too many bad King adaptations at this point. I'm trying to think. I mean, we had Firestarter's considered bad. He hated The Shining, but he seemed to
He
like,
did hate The Shining, yeah.
yes, until he and Kubrick came to some sort of understanding while Kubrick was still alive, and then he said, "Shining's fine." And then Kubrick died, and he went back to saying he hates it. Um, but I'm trying to think. Like, we're
I
still
would
kind
love to be
of,
in the same room as those two men, though. That would have been entertaining, at least
oh
minimum.
yeah, well, he was Kubrick like read The Shining and then said, "Oh, I have to rewrite most of this." And The Shining's an okay book. Like, it's actually, I think it's pretty good, and I'm not a big fan of Kubrick's adaptation, but not because of the writing so much. I think the acting is kind of appallingly bad. But we've talked about that before. But anyway, Stephen King decides, I'm going to adapt Trucks, my short story for Cavalier, and that was in Night Shift, and make a movie. Which the sad thing is, there's a remake of Maximum Overdrive. They made another Trucks movie, and it's
But
worse than this. It's so bad I couldn't finish it. Like it's
I
maybe
finished it.
worse.
I
It's
finished it.
Oh, of course you did.
Can
I don't make time for that anymore.
I have all three adaptations right here with me.
There you go.
can
I
we
was
talk
like,
about this? Can we talk about this in general? Of all the stories, of all his stories, he chose to adapt Trucks.
I think
And I know we have a difference of opinion on the short story, but why?
I don't. Here's the thing: the part in the Maximum Overdrive that actually deals with the story of Trucks is probably the best made part of it.
Hmm.
When they're all pumping gas, which is the short story, is that the humans are
yeah.
being forced to pump gas. And it's from what I remembered when we read it last year, Noah, it was a fine short story.
Hmm.
It was depressing. Um,
It was
but
depressing. It's a depressing
but I
story.
guess Stephen King adapted that into he always thought Hell's Bells by AC/DC should be playing. That's the other big thing, is Stephen King's a big AC/DC fan. He met AC/DC and he's like, I'm making a movie and I want you to do the soundtrack for it.
Hmm.
Which they recorded 3 tracks for the movie.
They recorded
Well, the
what it was,
title
it
track,
was
it's
Who
Who
Made
Made
Who?
Me,
Yeah.
Chase the
DC
Ace,
and
and
Chase the Eight.
DC. Yeah.
However, we must also remember that all of the other strange instrumental like guitars that you hear in the movie is done by Angus and Malcolm Young. They did
Yeah,
that to
It's not just that, it's just sometimes they mix, they, like, take I started noticing this because they take "For Those About to Rock," and then they just take the lyrics out until the chorus. And there's, like I think they just dissected already made AC/DC songs and would just put a guitar track here or there. And then, the other thing noteworthy if you're listening to Who Made Who, is that they use a different recording of Shake Your Foundations, which I think is just an alternate version from the Fly on the Wall sessions. I don't think it was recorded for this because AC/DC also did like music videos for Who Made Who, and it was the Who Made Who single because it's the only new song that Brian Johnson put his voice to. And then they did a new version of You Shook Me All Night Long that's more MTV because all the Back in Black music videos are just concert footage in black and white. So they just remade You Shook Me All Night Long, and that's the one with the women on the exercise bikes. If you remember that, Cody? The
Oh,
women
how could I
and there's a
forget
woman
that?
riding a mechanical bull, and Brian Johnson takes a bath in a bucket.
Yes, he
It
takes a bath.
it's one of their more, goofy music videos because I mean, like, AC/DC didn't get into the whole MTV thing till Fly on the Wall. If I'm gonna sidetrack because Maximum Overdrive's so awful and, like, wonderful, but I wanna get into AC/DC lore because Stephen King
Mm.
would approve of that because he's a huge, huge AC/DC fan. But, like, so AC/DC did a movie, kinda sort of a movie. All the Fly on the Wall music videos all combined into one movie, and they released it on VHS, which they have not released since. Cody and I
Trying to
break
find that is also so hard.
Yeah,
Like
they need
finding
to
finding an example and then finding one that's not been like left to rot in some warehouse. It has mold in it, and
yeah,
that someone's asking a reasonable price for it. The price on those things are ridiculous.
because they kinda released the music videos on DVD at one point on the No Bull DVD, but they're edited like they would be on MTV.
Yeah,
Rather than, like, there's, like, transition videos to all of them.
there's
But, like
transition videos and there's like short, like little, like like in between songs. You can see kind of the story of what's happening in the
Mhm.
bar. You know,
but that got them into the music video thing, so they were a little late to the game on music videos and the MTV thing. In my
it's
opinion,
kind
they
of
got
sidetracking as well a
goofier.
little bit. You remember some of like the Bon Scott era music videos? How weird
Yeah,
those
but
are.
they were more experimental because there was AC/DC tried to make a Led Zeppelin Song Remains the Same movie, but didn't wanna commit. And so they have the Let There Be Rock, which is a better concert than the concert footage song remains the same.
Yeah.
But there's like an interlude where they're all playing soccer. And just like just weird shit because that was the popular thing in the 70s. But yeah, there were some music videos because Jailbreak and If You Want Blood, You've Got It have actual music videos before there was MTV.
I remember one of the big ones that I remember when we were kids was like the one that I liked was a long way to the top where Bon Scott plays his bagpipes before they're unceremoniously destroyed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And they're on the float, right?
Yeah,
They're
that's
on a
the
parade
one of the
float.
goofiest videos I was ever seen.
Yeah.
Because you start wondering, do they have a permit to be on this float thing? And it doesn't look like it from what everything looks like.
Oh, speaking of Goofy, Noah just sent me so Stephen King did his own trailer for Maximum Overdrive, which is it consists of him trying to be like a goofier version of Alfred Hitchcock and
It's
telling you about the movie, which isn't okay, the truck stop, is it called the Dixie Pig?
the Ditsy Boy,
It's the Dixie
boy,
Yeah,
okay,
boy,
Dixie
boy.
Bo.
okay, because it's not the Dixie Pig is in Song of Susanna.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, getting a tower connection?" I've already started it, and I'm starting to see the tower connections, and not in a good way. But yeah, he says he's gonna scare the crap out of you at the end of the trailer, and that he liked directing it, and you can tell he had fun. He might have been the only one who had fun.
I think
Mm.
he, out of everyone involved with this movie, I think he was the only one who was enjoying himself at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this: no one, the kid is the only one that's kind of acting normal in this whole movie.
Yeah.
Everyone is overact. Actually, I take that back. Emilio Estevez just looks tired the whole
I
movie.
mean, I would be too if a bunch of 20 or so ton trucks were just running amok around me. I probably wouldn't be scared. I was just like, I just don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, he looks tired. The female lead, she just can't act at all. She's terrible, and everyone else is overacting, which is wonderful. Um, Specifically, the Bible salesman is my favorite
Oh,
character. He's like one of the funniest like Stephen King like asshole characters ever. He's
oh,
who was the antagonist in Dead Zone? Noah.
Greg Stilson.
He's Greg Stilson.
yeah.
If Greg Stilson was a cartoon character.
Mm.
Greg Stilson was also a Bible salesman in the beginning of that, when he kicks the dog to death. Which there's
Oh,
dog murder in this, but we gotta get to my
Which-
favorite.
I want to point out that was hilarious, but we're gonna get to that scene, I hope.
Oh yeah. So
So many things, so many scenes that we're gonna have to cover because you just stop and ponder, huh? There's no explanation for that. Okay, we're done with this scene. Okay, cool.
well,
There is stuff in here I wanna. There is stuff in here that King is gonna use again. Specifically, the scene with the soda cans. The machine.
Oh yeah.
is that in Tommy Knockers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was in the book. In the book and in the movie adaptation
Oh, I
for
remember
Tommy Knockers. That's also in there.
the book. So this movie is just a series of different scenes that I think Stephen King found twistedly funny. And he just decided to put in a movie. Because Trucks, it's not enough of a story to warrant a 90-minute movie, like at
No.
all. So the movie starts with AC/DC Who Made Who, which, by the way, Stephen King did not want them to name their album Who Made Who, and they did it anyway as a joke.
Hmm.
So the ATM called Stephen King an asshole.
Wait, before that, we have to talk about the genius overall story because it really begins with a text.
Oh, yeah, the thing that everyone ignores because it's nonsense and it doesn't make sense because it contradicts itself at the end with the other text.
Yes, I just love that. That's just King last minute realizing, oh, that there needs to be an explanation. But as we know, King himself says he hates explaining why supernatural stuff is happening in stories.
I don't even think he put that in. I have a
Someone else.
someone
Oh.
like a producer or an editor put
They
those
put in there
in.
so the audience wouldn't be confused.
Because I think he was too. This is like we were talking about with Skeleton Crew. Because Skeleton Crew is what happens when you just do too many drugs and you don't know how to structure your book of short stories. I mean, it opens with a novella that should be in the middle if you're even going to put it in there, because it's the longest fucking thing in there. But like it's just substance abuse, the book. And then this is substance abuse, the movie, because
Mhm.
these are not normal human reactions to anything. I mean, I've never. It's like so Tommy Wiseau made another movie after The Room. It was like
Oh, the
intentionally.
shark one?
What's that?
The shark one that he did like last year?
No, he
Oh
directed
no, it
another
was
movie
another one. Yeah.
in like
Oh.
the mid 2000s when The Room started. People were like, "This is the funniest movie ever," and he tried to like cash in on that, and so he made a movie that was intentionally worse than The Room, because The Room, he genuinely tried to make a movie. He's just a crazy person and he doesn't know how to direct or do anything properly. So he made like it was either a movie or it was a TV show or something. It's terrible. But the acting in it is like the acting in Maximum Overdrive. Where it's just everyone's overacting. Except for
Yep.
like two or three actors. And one of them it's because she can't.
Mhm.
But anyway, so what is the text at the beginning?
That there is a meteorite, and I have to point this out because, again, we have the German title thing going on.
Oh, what is the German title?
This movie in Germany is called Ria M, because that's the name of the meteorite. You know, that's circling the Earth for a couple of days, and that's the reason machines come alive.
Okay, and then at the end, the Soviets use a laser beam and blow it up, and it like goes away after a while.
The text
Good
specifically
question.
says they blow up a UFO.
Oh, it's a UFO.
UFO. But you know, there's that thing. Is like, was a satellite operating, you know, under the influence of the comet? Was the Soviets themselves operating? It never is explained.
That's a whole other topic with like some machines are affected and some are not.
And some of them are affected in ways that do not make sense. Like it's not possible. But anyway, we'll get to those when we get to those. So we'll start with the ATM called Stephen. This is Stephen King's funniest cameo, in my opinion. I was talking to Marcel the other day, and he thought that his cameo in Creepshow 2 was pretty funny, where he's the truck driver.
I forgot about that one.
Which is funny, but this is funnier, and I can't say that he has a cameo in the first Creepshow. He has a whole story dedicated, and Stephen King cannot act, but he can act very, very strange and say things in a very strange way. Which
He's
is
good
funny.
for comedic appearances.
Oh yeah, I mean, my favorite of his comedic appearances is when he's the Undertaker in Sons of Anarchy.
Oh yeah, I've seen that clip, Bachman.
I forgot he did that.
Yes.
Did you hear like his demand was like, I like this show, I'm gonna be on it, I'm gonna drive my own motorcycle though.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because he's a
and
big
this one, with this one, I want to point out, I like that this is the first scene, because that's the scene everybody hears about, at least I heard about that scene first with King's cameo. It's literally the first scene of the movie.
Yeah, he says,
that's just great.
The ATM called me an asshole.
Asshole. What was it? Come on over here, sugar bums. Lifts up his glass. This machine's calling me an asshole. It's on like his southern drawl for it, and he's so good.
Then like the things just start reaping havoc, which the first scene in the movie is probably the best, when like the bridge just goes up and everyone's falling. And like all the watermelons falling around. That's just a weird like detail I've always found.
I like how slow everyone's reaction is to the fact that this bridge is going up. You know?
Yeah. And the AC/DC tour bus falls.
It's just a like a T2 Volkswagen, I think. I don't even think it's like
no,
bus.
it's not. It's a Volkswagen that just has an AC/DC.
Yeah.
On it.
What the guy who drives like, far out, man.
It's just so bad. And then we get into the gas station, a truck stop, which Cody, you have a lot of experience with truck stops because you worked at one for a long time. How accurate is the interactions that the people are having in the truck stop compared to your real life work experience?
So the first caveat I would point out though is like they're in was it South or North Carolina, right? South Carolina?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Raleigh, South Carolina. So I'm over here on the West Coast, so immediately there's going to be a little bit of discourse between those. But absolutely, anyone who works at a truck stop and on slow point, you're going to be sitting around doing a lot of nothing, and you're going to be probably trying to figure out, hey, we got to do something because the boss might come by. He might see us doing nothing and then yell at us. Well, we don't care if we don't have anything or something a lot to do. It's just like we just don't like to be yelled at, especially the boss I had. Oh my god, I'm not going to get into it. He was a
Did your
tool.
boss sell guns on the side? Because for some reason
That would have made him so much cooler. That would have made him so much cooler. But no, he was just kind of an asshole to everyone.
Mhm.
So
Well,
he wasn't too far from Mr. Hendershaw, but unfortunately he wasn't as interesting as him either. So no, truck stops, especially here in the United States, uh, depending on where you're traveling from, the South or the West Coast, they all have a similar feeling. But I think in the South, because I've also lived in the South for a bit, I I think they just grab people who are working at a local gas station for those parts. It just felt pretty realistic.
yeah. So we get introduced to most of our cast. They're just a bunch of truckers or people working at the truck stop. Um, and we get our first hijinks when the carving tool, the electric carver, cuts the waitress, and then the gas pump just sprays gas into a dude's face eyes specifically, which is probably the most horrific thing in this movie. Because this movie's pretty freaking tame when it comes to like a lot of the violence. Because it's just
You say that, and then we insert the shot of the little kid getting run over.
By this,
but it's played for as a joke. That's what I want to get at. Like
Okay.
most of the violence in this is cartoon violence, just on actual people.
I have a working conspiracy theory that when they shot Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the guy must have seen Maximum Overdrive like in the theaters because he was like, you know what, I want someone to get squished by a steamroller as well. We're gonna do that scene.
Yeah, there's that. There's the well, there's the little league team because our kid that doesn't really do anything in this movie.
Though he's kind of like Chekhov's gunman a bit too.
He's needed. I realized that plot point. He is needed at the truck stop because he can translate the Morse code.
That is the only thing he does. There are so many characters in this that have no purpose.
Most of the truckers, like there's nothing to them.
Yeah, they're just cannon fodder basically.
Yeah, I would say the main characters, we got Pat Hingle with the bazooka, the truck stop owner. We got Emilio Estevez and the lady who can't act, his love interest. And then we got Lisa Simpson and her husband.
Yes, and it is Lisa Simpson.
That subplot's freaking hilarious.
She's just so obnoxious and it's wonderful. So she and her husband are just married.
This because on the car it says just married.
And they mention it once, and all she does is complain.
Or scream.
She has a lot of screaming and complaining and crying. And they're just driving around and like things are just running amok everywhere. We got the hitchhiker lady who's Emilio Estevez's love interest. She's picked up by the Bible salesman, who is the funniest character in this whole movie. Who I'll never forget. So to backpedal a little bit, I found out about this movie through Cody, who had it on VHS, and he just discovered it because he used to have like a pile of VHS tapes that his parents gave him. And like we found this thing, and he's like, "This is an AC/DC movie." I had no idea Stephen King directed it whatsoever. It was told to me that this is an AC/DC soundtrack movie because at the time Iron Man 2 hadn't come out yet, which is the other big AC/DC soundtrack movie where they did the whole soundtrack. Even though that's just all old stuff that they just threw on a CD. And then
Yeah.
they did the
I'm trying to
song.
remember when I introduced you. Was it 5th grade or 4th grade? Because you started hanging
No,
out in 4th grade.
it was 7th grade.
Was
It
it
was when
7th grade?
you went to charter school, so we weren't going to school.
Ah, okay.
Called me on the
So
telephone because we always called. We have the same birthday. We always called each other on our birthdays. Wish each other happy birthday. And you called me before because I went to your birthday.
yes,
And you're like, you gotta check out this Maximum Overdrive movie. You said, this is my favorite movie because it's funny. And that's all you said about it.
it
And I said,
it's
okay.
it's. I wasn't lying. I wasn't lying. It's
You
goofy.
know, this is true. And then it was on TV a lot back then on one of the
That's the first time I saw Maximum Overdrive. It was on, I want to say, like TBS or something, and I was with my cousins during Thanksgiving, and I remember really clearly because my grandparents still had one of those big CRT TVs in the oak cabinets from like the 80s.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what we'd do is they had it in the front room so the kids, can fuck off and like do whatever they're gonna do away from the rest of the family. But my cousins and I were like, all right, what horror movies are coming on tonight? We'll get popcorn, soda, whatever. They're like, oh, this one, Maximum Overdrive, whatever that thing is. We're like, okay, we'll watch that, I guess. And I remember sitting down and watching this, and we were laughing the entire time. It was so bad. It was so funny. However, the next day when we're playing basketball outside in the street, because that's what you did, my grandparents' neighbor down the street, he drove big rigs, and he had a big black Kenworth that's parked on the street facing us. The whole time we're playing basketball, we're doing the
Gonna run you over.
like. So we laughed at it, but it played with our psyches as kids. And this is probably, I want to say, it's between the year 2000 or 2001. So, but by then it had been out of print, so I couldn't find a copy of it. The only copy I could find was at a Hollywood Video, the rental place for movies in Paradise. Like they
Okay.
had a copy of Maximum Overdrive, and I remember, uh, I think it was like for my 8th birthday. Yeah, my 8th birthday. My dad rented it for me to watch on DVD. So that was great. It was wonderful. And I think it was like a year later, he tracked down and got my prized possession,
The VHS
the
in the clamshell.
VHS in the
And
clamshell. It's from some video store somewhere in the country. I think he got it
yeah,
from Oklahoma.
because they cut up the regular VHS sleeve to put in the clamshell because it's clearly a rental clamshell.
Yep,
That's
I'm,
funny.
it's funny. I'm not gonna play. It fits pretty well. Fit pretty well, but prominently, says Emilio Estevez.
Well,
Music
yeah,
by AC/DC.
those are the two marketing points for this. It's so
Those are two
funny that
marketing points.
Emilio Estevez did this movie because he was a big actor at this point.
He could have said no. He could have said no, and no one would blame him for it.
He did this movie. He is the star power of this. But we gotta get back to this. We got the little league team, which mostly get massacred with a steamroller, but the
Or
coke gets
the
killed with
machine.
the coke machine. And like some of the most blatant product placement I have ever seen in my life. He just gets pelted to death with coke bottles.
Is that a brilliant metaphor that King was inserting there? Killed by coke.
I don't know. I don't think he could think that well.
He was on it too much.
So the one kid, his dad is the one that's sprayed in the eyes with the gasoline. Why would you look down the nozzle of a gas?
It's the South. They're trying to make some sort of stereotype joke, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he can't be that smart. He pumps gas for a living. You know, That's not. But he has kids. Don't get offended with me, Cody. You're not trying to support a child in elementary school by pumping gas. Like,
And here's
I
the
mean,
funny thing: California itself self-serve. I don't pump your gas.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, most states are now. I think, or actually,
Even
Oregon.
Oregon now.
Oregon, not.
We'll only in Jersey. Only in Jersey is a thing now.
No, no. Are you familiar with this? That it used to be at gas stations, people pumped your gas for you at all gas stations in America.
No.
Yeah, that was a thing. Up until recently, the state of Oregon, they had gas pumping people, and they come out to your car. They stay in like little booths over by the gas pumps. Not even in the convenience store. They stay in their own booths. They'd come out and pump.
I think the only place I've ever seen that was in like Back to the Future when he's back in like the 1950s.
Yeah, it was very common.
It was very common back then.
They would also, you could get your car serviced. They rotate your tires and stuff at a lot of them, or change your oil. It was a service station, and there used to be a lot more.
There used to be a lot. There's still a few. But most of those have gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
However,
I mean, cars are more fuel efficient now, so you don't need as many service stations.
Right. Well, Jeremy, you know what killed those, right?
What?
All the
what was it? The oil crisis? Yeah.
It always goes back to oil crisis.
Yeah, the oil crisis in the 70s. Which Stephen King talks about a lot in his books, the early books. Because that was a big deal. I mean, you couldn't get gas certain days of the week, depending on where you lived. Like, because they would run out of gas at the gas stations. It was bad. Anyway, so we got the kid running around on his bike because his little league team was murdered by a steamroller.
And soda cans.
And soda
very
cans.
deadly.
And soda cans.
Was it soda cans or was it soda bottles?
It was cans because they were aluminum.
Okay.
It's a type of machine. Oh, one little point I'd like to make about that machine though that shot the soda cans out. It's the way they set it up to do that. The hose is right there where you see them like feeding it into.
Oh yeah, yeah. This was not meant to be in high definition. It was not meant to be in high definition at all. Which some of the effects in this with the truck shifting still works. I like those, but we'll get to some that they just don't make any fucking sense at all. But we've talked about everyone that's like showing up. They all end up at the truck stop except for the kid, because the kid is there just for world building that things are terrible. Which is more interesting than what happens at the truck stop. If I'm being honest, like the kid sees just dead bodies left and right, and the AC/DC track DT is playing. Well, this kid's riding a bike, which is just kind of cool until you realize that DT will just stop and it will cut to a dead body.
Yes, I mentioned this to you yesterday when I watched it. That scene is so unintentionally hilarious. I'm gonna guess the humor here wasn't intentional. But yeah, he's just riding around in this like idyllic looking American neighborhood. And then the music plays, kind of cool. It stops, dead body who died in a very funny way. And it just continues like that for like a minute. Especially the dog. The dog one made me laugh so hard because it looks
it's the
so dumb.
Dog. It's a toy car just shoved up its mouth and it's dead, like choked to death. It's just sad, but like it is the fakest.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's so funny because you just imagine how did that happen.
Yeah, every time that scene plays, that's the only thing that goes in my head is like, how though? How did that? The woman who's dead by being hung by her hair dryer, and I'm like, okay, there's no way that wrapped itself around your throat. Okay, That's not
Yeah,
how that works. That's not
we're
how
getting
that works.
this is the not making sense department starts to really come into play, because this is when the ice cream truck is stalking the kid. I like, okay, I can believe that because it's driving itself. Okay, that kind of makes sense a little bit.
Then
Like
immediately after the ice cream truck is gone,
it's
immediately after.
a push lawnmower starts up and starts chasing the kid. How does that move? How does that move?
It's a gas one. It's a gas one.
Doesn't matter. It's not like a gas lawnmower has an accelerator.
That's what. No, it's so fast.
It doesn't even have to have something push it. It doesn't make sense. If it were a riding lawnmower, that would make far more sense. But riding lawnmowers don't go that fast. Even when you floor it, they don't move quickly. It'd be
That
easy
the
to
lawnmower is
outrun.
one of the funniest parts. It's one of the funniest things. Every time I see it, I laugh because when it's moving and it gets onto the street, you can see like the thing underneath that's making it go fast because it's kind of floating. The wheels aren't spinning. If you look really quick, the wheels aren't spinning.
Mhm. And then we get back to the truck stop, and the Bible salesman's the only one who's not really affected by anything that's going on. He's just trying to sell Bibles to people.
Mhm.
And then so there is a main antagonistic truck, and it has the Green Goblin's face on it. That is the Green
Yes,
Goblin from Spider-Man. I wonder if Marvel
this one right here.
I really think Marvel sued them for that. But then again, Marvel was not doing well in the 80s. They might have just accepted the free publicity. I mean, they made the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie not long after this. So like they were kind of desperate. But we get
Yeah.
the trucks start hitting cars, which why the cars aren't driving around doesn't make sense either.
I gotta make a quick like why split right here to the movie Trucks. Because in that movie, we do see smaller vehicles operate as they do in the short story. Whereas in
Yeah.
Maximum Overdrive, it's only semi trucks and it's only like bigger vehicles. And all the smaller vehicles that are supposedly are killing things, apparently they're operating off screen or something.
Until we get the machine gun
No,
truck.
yeah, the truck that's meant
W-
for the ammunition carrier that has for some unknown reason an M60 mounted to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Can I just say with the confusing part, the cars. So in that montage with the little kid driving down the street, there is one crashed car with like dead people in it, and I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that was implied. Okay, the cars are also alive, like regular ones.
Uh-huh.
Why isn't the car of the married people affected at all?
Or the Bible salesman's car. And then
Yeah,
why are the
Or
trucks
any of the park cars, any of the park cars at the truck stop, because
yeah,
there's does they hide behind them from the trucks.
it's ridiculous. And then but it does lead to my other favorite line from this, which is when the Bible salesman's car gets hit and he starts swearing. Like he's talking about how we need Bibles and Jesus in this time, and then his car gets hit, and he starts freaking out, and he said he's been talking to the waitress who got cut up with the weird saw thing, and he's like, "Out of my way, bitch!" And he's like jumps her around this outside, and then he gets hit. Somebody hits him.
he
And
gets
it's the Green
hit by
Goblin
bad
truck.
editing.
He gets hit by bad editing. He loses
It
both
is
his
bad
shoes.
editing.
He get, quote unquote, he gets gauged. Like in Pet
Yeah,
Cemetery. He loses both his shoes.
yeah, that is the editing in that is so amazing because you can clearly see the truck is very slowly driving backwards, but it's and then there's the cut and it's acting like it was really fast and he's like flying through the air.
Oh yeah, nothing moves fast in this movie. No one drives fast at all. They try to make it look like it, Well, no, they don't even try to make it look like that, because I get it. You can't drive fast and safely in movies. Stephen King's not he's not John Carpenter making Christine. Okay. It's like they didn't even have stunt drivers.
I think it's just the actors driving, dude.
I think it was like, because the married couple, the trucks are driving around the gas pumps, and there's a gap, and the married couple's like tries to jump it.
Oh, before that part though, Jeremy, remember they get chased by that old Mac, the red Mac truck.
Yes,
on the
that
highway.
blows up. For some reason, it blows up. I don't.
That's
But
not
that's
how.
who
That's
they
not how
want.
diesel engines work. That's not how diesel engines work.
That's not how engines work.
I want to point one thing out, one genius piece of directing by King. That scene you mentioned when they try to get through that ring, the back of the car, because it says like just married. In that shot, when they try to get through it, it says good luck and then their names. And I thought that was very funny because they get hit immediately.
Yes. I think they had multiple cars and they couldn't get the stunt right, and they messed up both of them. Because they drive so slowly through that.
Mm-hmm.
They might as well
to their
be
credit,
stuck
it is the 80s. It is the malaise era of vehicles. They aren't powerful. They don't go fast.
Fair enough. But they get hit and they survive because we had to have her scream. The whole
If
thing.
you want to hear Lisa Simpson swearing like a sailor, this is the scene for you.
Oh, I forgot something. Because, oh no, it's coming up. The rocket launchers. So when the rocket launchers are introduced, it's a wonderful scene. But what's a funnier scene is when Emilio Estevez starts harassing his coworker while he's taking a shit. And there are actual poop sounds. There it might be the only thing outside of like a 2000s comedy where someone's like legit, they try to make it look like they're legit pooping. And it's just like, it's supposed to be like a serious conversation, and they keep making like fart noises. There's just a bunch of fart foley and poop foley. Like, it's just like he's taking a shit. Like, is that supposed to be funny? Is that supposed to be more realistic? Like, I don't know. And then of course we have our forced love story between the hitchhiker and Emilio Estevez, who Emilio Estevez has a checkered past, but it does not matter at all.
Nope.
Nope.
He should have just not had a backstory. Like, it's not necessary.
At least if it would tie, like that could so easily tie into the story.
Mhm.
Like he was in prison once because he did this thing, like he's an expert on guns, for example, and that comes into play later. But no, they don't really do anything with it.
They don't do anything except for they bone.
Yeah, I want to point this out. I wrote this down yesterday when I watched it. Emilio Estevez is licking the sweat of her forehead, which that's quite a scene.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
This is
actual,
almost
like
Stephen King's perverted scenes in his books, and he successfully translated that to screen.
Yeah, it's like he tries to make it like realistic, but like he doesn't want it to be vanilla. But that's just weird. But I always think of like, she's just not that likable.
Nope. I mean, there's nothing really to her character.
Other than she
What
carries a razor, a straight razor. But he's really trying to act his heart out so to like compensate for her inability to act. And like eventually he just stops caring. There's a lot of stop caring happening in like the climax of this. Because finally the kid's dad, he tries to walk out there and he gets run over. Like
by the dump truck thing, the garbage truck. Yeah, not a garbage truck. It's a big semi truck hauling crap in a trailer.
Well, we got to get to the kid spends hours trying to get into the truck stop via a
Oh, there's
drain pipe.
drainage gate. Yeah.
Yeah. Which have you ever been in one of those, Noah?
No.
You haven't lived till you crawl through one of them. They're nasty.
we both, Jeremy and I both have climbed
We-
through several.
Yeah, I crawled through one in Magalia that was full of God knows what.
It's like
The-
decaying pine needles and like dead rats and stuff.
Yeah, spiders.
Mostly spiders.
Yeah, a lot of
Spiders.
black widows and nasty things in those. But anyway, if you're in there in the winter, it's not as bad. Although it's full of more water in the winter. Yeah. You just didn't have a childhood where you just climbed into nasty things, Noah.
I guess not.
You need to climb into more things. But I just like that there's like the husband and Emilio Estevez like go on a rescue mission to rescue the Bible salesman who's somehow still alive, although we never really see him after he's ran over.
But he starts screaming very convincingly.
Screaming, and like he
I
grabs.
will give it to him. He did scream pretty convincing. That was a pretty good scream.
He tries to wrestle the boy.
Oh, you get me out of here! I'm gonna kill you.
He's only got one
pull
more.
me out of this shit, by God, I'll kill you. I was like, he's really trying to like be our own version of Palpatine there.
Yeah, he got the Palpatine voice. That is true.
He does.
But they get the kid in, and then my favorite vehicle, because it makes zero sense, the ammo vehicle with the M60 mounted to it, which makes no sense, and the M60 can fire rounds. That doesn't make any sense. Because that would mean
it came with his bulldozer friend.
Well, the bulldozer at least makes sense. That's all hydraulic. And
yeah, but it's like, what's pulling the trigger of this M60? There's no.
It wouldn't be able to shoot.
You know, at the time they did have in the army, they did have electronic controlled triggers, but that it didn't have one on there. It was just an M60 on a pivot. That's all it was.
It's just weird. Although I will say they shoot it well, where you never see the trigger being pulled when it's firing. So they clearly had fishing lines somewhere else to pull it, but it's convincing enough. And the people are forced to pump gas after the kid translates Morse code. Because that's
after
the only
both the bulldozer pushes a car to the front of the restaurant part of the truck stop, and the M60 guns down like 4 or 5 can fodder characters.
Oh yeah, they killed
never duck. Yeah, they none of them hit the ground. When a machine gun opens up, you know it's a machine gun. You hit the floor. Common sense dictates.
That is way funnier.
And watched it.
That's even funnier in the end with their escape plan, which is just do this to the gun.
That is the most realistic thing I think about that situation, to be honest.
And they dropped the pineapple on it. That's true. But I was like thinking, so our man, the truck stop owner, he gets killed. The lady waitress, she gets killed after overacting for a second time.
Can we talk about her overacting? Because she ever since things start going awry, she just is hysterically funny.
Yeah, she just starts screaming, "We made you."
We made. She did twice. Once to that big out at night. She ran out when they lost power. Right before she ran out and yelled at like that cab over Mac, and that almost hit her. Which is funny because the truck stopped right in front of her, and then reverses back out to do what. And we never see that truck ever again. By the way, never again. There's so many times I'm like, where's this one truck that we saw? It's nowhere. Where did it go?
Well, eventually,
That scene is great because she's not only screaming "We made you," but she's moving like a broken animatronic.
Oh,
Yeah,
and she's like jumping jacks or something.
We made you.
it's so bad. And then she gets gunned down, which is wonderful.
Mhm.
And then they end up probably the best scene, like actually the good scene in this movie is when the novella starts. It's not even a novella. The short story actually starts happening, and they're all pumping the gas. Hell's
Mhm.
Bells starts playing. It's just it's a good time,
Mhm.
and it's a good montage.
And it makes sense that Emilio Estevez just looks like done with it.
And he's just taken to the breaking point.
Mhm.
I don't think that's acting. I think at that point in filming, he was just so done and exhausted that they're like, oh, he's growing. We'll just put him in right now.
Yeah, and then they get the idea of they're all gonna escape through the sewer pipe. Same, it's a drain pipe basically for their showers. And they do that by slapping the M60 so it spins around, and then they throw a grenade on it and blow it up, and they run away. That's a pretty solid one. And then we have our final showdown with the ice cream truck.
Oh,
Which they
first they gotta escape. You know, you have to play "Shake Your Foundations" as the trucks
Oh,
are destroying the truck stop.
and it's the version for this movie where it's just different in the beginning.
Oh no, it's even better, Jeremy, because I last time I watched this movie, I wanted to make note of what are they playing during that scene. They're playing the fly on the wall version, not even the one that's on Who Made
That's
Who.
Yeah, it is. It's the fly on the wall version that made the LP.
And I'm like, what is happening? Why did you put this other edited version on Who Made Who? Is it for time? Is it a time thing? What's happening?
Well, it's not even an edited version. It's literally they the drum track comes in later on the
Yeah.
Who Made Who LP version. Because there's a lot of like weird AC/DC things they do in this. Like we said before, for those about to rock, they just take the vocal track off until the chorus. There's what I can't remember what song they're playing before the power goes out. It's a
Right
Brian.
on.
No, that's
Right
after
on.
the power goes
That's
out.
after.
There's what they're playing.
Oh, Sink the Pink. Sink the
They're,
Pink.
they're playing "Sink the Pink." Power goes out, and then somehow they're playing "Ride On." I don't think it's diegetically happening though. I think that's just
The
non-diegetic.
soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, because diegetically they were playing "Sink the Pink." Like it's happening.
Yes. Oh, when he's trying to adjust, find a song on the jukebox, walks away, and the thing short circuits and stops playing the music.
Yeah. Well, I also forgot the one trucker um in the beginning when the cigarette machine starts throwing packs of cigarettes out that
Oh yeah, and
he just starts grabbing packs of cigarettes.
he gets hypnotized by the arcade cabinet.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
that guy. That you know who that actor is? That is Giancarlo Esposito.
is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, it is.
I checked. I was amazed. Really, like
There,
an all-star affair. This movie.
Oh
yeah, there's so many people who you look like that's a big actor. What are they doing this one like line scene and never seen again in the movie, or they immediately die?
I think it's just Stephen King had that it factor because he's so
Mhm.
freaking weird that they just wanted to be in his movie. But then we get the whole plan is to just shoot cars now. So the kid shoots the ice cream truck and then says, "I don't want this anymore." And he has the stormtrooper gun.
Oh
The
no, that's
Sterling, yeah.
he says that after shooting the fast food speaker.
Oh, that's
that's
right.
right.
It's the lady hitchhiker that shoots the ice cream truck.
And the husband. That's right, because it
Yeah,
doesn't make
they look at each other confused and they start. I want to know why they look confused. Like you guys have been going through this the entire day. You know what's happening. Why are you looking confused?
And then they have the final showdown with the
Green
Well,
Goblin.
with the Green Goblin, which, by the way, that is one of the dumbest scenes in this movie, which has a ton of dumb scenes, is when that one trucker sees the ring on the dead woman, and he stops what he's doing to steal her wedding ring, and then he gets ran over. Like out,
So maybe Stephen King wanted like an Aesop in here or something. I don't know.
I don't know, but then I mean,
I don't know what.
they blow up the Green Goblin. They get on a sailboat. They sail to an island that has no cars. If the cars are forbidden.
Apparently, that's what happened. That's what the text tells us. Kind of.
Well, no, Emilio Estevez says that the cars aren't allowed on the island when he.
Okay.
That's
Okay, I
set
was
up.
thinking of the text at the end saying the survivors of the Dixie Boy are still surviving.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is funnier? This sailing to an island with no cars? Or in the remake of Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder one, when they sailed to the tropical island off the coast of Milwaukee?
Oh, the Milwaukee one is more funny because I can buy there are small islands with no cars.
I can't think of any that have no cars off the coast of the United States. I know there's an island out off the west coast of Mexico that they only have golf carts.
Oh,
But I also want
to.
to.
Yeah.
What I like about this ending, first off, two things: the epic climatic battle with the Green Goblin truck. You know, the main antagonist kind of set up. He just gets blown up like every other one because obviously, and then it's just played like triumphantly. How they just blast through everything now. But the main point: how do they know for sure that the boats are not also alive? Because there are no rules.
Well, because they picked a sailboat.
A non-motorized sailboat. But it brings up a good point is because there's other boats in that marina.
Oh, they could be attacked. Yes, that is true.
That's what I was thinking because they show that shot of them sailing past those like other ones, and I was like, if one of them if they start moving and chasing them, like that could be a neat little action piece.
But... Yeah, like a yacht would overtake them. Definitely. That is funny. I never thought of that because this movie.
They need to call for the orcas.
Yeah. Free Willy will rescue them. I don't know. It's just the ultimately Maximum Overdrive is the reason that Stephen King should never direct his own stuff. And quite frankly,
I think that was his first and only thing, right?
Yes. Can we quickly talk about the behind the scenes if you know it? Because I think I remember it. It is the usual suspect, Dino De Laurentiis.
Oh, that asshole. That asshole is propped up on too many of my reviews. So by the time this comes out, I would have complained about Dino De Laurentiis twice now because of him ruining Hannibal and Hannibal Rising because he's an idiot. He's an idiot with a lot of money. He's the king of just ruining things.
So do you know how this came to be? Because if I remember correctly, it was Dino De Laurentiis who came to Stephen King and was like, you should direct the movie. Because I remember King writing about driving through Maine with Dino De Laurentiis. And he made a point how Dino is very short, but a very charismatic figure.
Yes. He's typical producer. I just so Stephen King shouldn't write scripts. Can we just throw that out there?
Yes.
He shouldn't write screenplays. He's not good at it. I think the only Storm of the Century is the only one that's actually good of his screenplays. Because I mean, this is the
picture of the kid shooting that screen, the fast food screen. There's that still right there at the back of the
Yes, it's pretty good. But I mean,
this is the hitchhiker girl, by the way, everyone. This is the hitchhiker girl. A little closer, maybe you can see what is that? That's Emilio Estevez's love interest.
Who's taller than him? Which is,
I don't know.
whatever. It's modern. Anyway, so my whole thing with this is, so we
Is she
have
Swedish?
this.
I don't know.
I don't know. So we got Maximum Overdrive that he wrote.
Mhm.
Sleepwalkers, which is a nonsense movie too. It's a nonsense movie that I love because the cats eat people at the end. They eat werecats, which is a wonderful, wonderful scene, and the only reason to watch Sleepwalkers, which we will. He wrote Storm of the Century. Did
Mhm.
he write the script for Lizzie's story?
He
as
did.
well?
He did.
Yes.
He wrote a bunch of screenplays. I think he also wrote. Did he write Golden Years? That was a thing.
Maybe
He is Cat's Eye a segment of a movie, or is that?
that is an entire movie. That
Yeah, I
is
think.
we've talked about Cat's Eye before on here because two of the three stories in it are from Night Shift,
Mhm.
and the other one's from Skeleton Crew, from what I remember.
Yeah, he wrote a couple for his own adaptations, like the Shining TV movie he did.
Oh, he wrote the script for Creepshow. That's probably his best script.
Yeah,
Yes,
Creepshow.
he did. Creepshow.
and
Good.
he has one published in Nightmares and Dreamscapes for a TV episode or something.
Okay, but typically there's something about him in writing screenplays that they just don't jive well. I don't know what it is, but he can write a solid novel. Well, nowadays that's pretty iffy on writing a solid novel, but I mean, he used to be able to write solid novels, but when it came to screenplays, they're just kind of really all over the place.
I think it's just because he can't put in as much detail. Because a lot of his books, if you strip them, like if you strip his details and stuff away,
Hmm.
they wouldn't work. Literally translated to screen.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose. Yeah, I'm thinking Pet Cemetery right now because Pet Cemetery works because of the detail, solely because of the detail, or Cujo.
Mhm.
I think
And
both. Yeah, because I'm remembering Cujo. I remember watching the first movie, the first Cujo.
I think that's
Or
only one Cujo.
I think it's
There's
only one.
multiple Pet Cemeteries.
That's the one thing I'm thinking. Pet Smart. No, when I watched Cujo, it's a fine movie by itself, but if you read the book, you start noticing like
Well, I mean, there's the
quality
ghost of
of
Frank Dodd for some reason until there's not the ghost of Frank Dodd. But we talked about that on here because Castle Rock. You know what's nice? Maximum Overdrive didn't take place in Castle Rock.
it didn't.
That's a miracle. Or Derry.
Oh
So
no.
so I started it a couple days ago because the internet went out in my town for most of the day, and I couldn't listen to the Galaxy of Fear audiobooks that I've been going through. So I started it, and I'm already sick of Derry. I'm only 8 chapters in, and I'm sick of Derry. That book is nonsense. I know we'll be talking about it next episode. It's freaking nonsense. It's told out of order. I didn't remember that from because this was like the third King book I ever read. So I just remembered the underage, you know what?
Yeah.
Pennywise turning into a spider, Madrin the turtle, which is not even referred to as Madrin in this, which the
Nope,
turtle
that came later.
that was him when he quit doing drugs, being like, well, this is nonsense, but I could make it into something later. Because I think it's Wastelands that he calls it Madrid.
Hmm.
I don't think it shows up. Madrin shows up in Drawing of the Three. I think that is Wastelands.
It is definitely later on in the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Wastelands because that's how they find Jake.
Okay.
Madrin
yes,
Jake
yes.
to them, and that's such a fucking ridiculous sequence in Wastelands when Suzanne is at fucking the shape shifting thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Which there's a term used that we can't say on here, which is like the most easily the most ridiculous thing Roland says in the entire Dark Tower series. You gotta R it back. And she starts becoming Detta Walker because she's still kind of schizo when the plot needs it to be. So, and then Jake's nearly getting eaten by a house. It's just it's just a ridiculous sequence. And that's before we even get to blame the mono, that the suicidal sentient train, who's also evil for no reason. But anyway, I wish I was reading Wastelands is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. But you're reading it. You know.
I am reading it.
You get the entire backstory. You know what the original title for the book was? Derry.
Oh, I'm glad it's it. It's a better title.
I mean, Derry is accurate because it is the entire town's history.
Yes, that is the thing. What I don't like, so I really that first chapter. I'm just going to give my first thoughts on it. The stuff with Georgie is perfect. And it is exactly how I remembered it. It's as horrific as I remembered it being. And Georgie and Bill's interactions with each other. I was just telling Noah this yesterday. It's so spot on for brothers and like siblings. Like it's very relatable and it makes it all the more sad. But then we cut to 84 and then there's the hate crime on the gay couple that happens. And I don't know why that's in the book. It's never made it into any of the film adaptations, but for some reason Pennywise eats a gay man after some teenagers throw him over a bridge. That is a thing that happens to this, but I don't know why.
Just to establish he's back, but
that's an adult. Pennywise goes after children. Like that doesn't make any sense. I'm wondering if King will explain it. And now I'm at the 6 calls chapter, which goes on forever. Which, if you guys have of course seen the made-for-TV It movie with Tim Curry.
Yep. Yeah.
You remember all the zoom ins when everyone gets the call? The Pennywise is back and just zooms in on their faces. So I'm in that chapter, and I just what's his face? The one that kills himself. His wife is just upset that she's Jewish.
Yeah, and that goes on for 30 pages.
It's like forever. And then I'm like, oh, this is why this book is so long. He just goes on these tangents, which I don't mind a Stephen King tangent every once in a while. Like they can be fun and like nice world building, but it's like every other chapter is a tangent in this book because this book's so damn long. Like I don't remember this.
I vividly remember in that chapter, it goes on for 30 pages, and I remember this description, like, his wife is thinking of going, like, to prom in a fancy dress and thinking people would make fun of her. She looks like a Jewish mermaid.
Yeah,
and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, because her mom said she looked like a mermaid. But it's not Jewish. It's a slur that we can't say on here because this book is the slurs book.
It really is.
It's probably the most slur. That's what I remember. Also remembered as a kid. I was like, because I read this when I was 12, which is a little too young.
I remember you ran up to me one time. I think it was during recess, and you said, "Read this page in this book." It was it, and I think it was like the majority of the conversation on that page was all slur.
Well, yeah, because I wasn't allowed to read the book, and I just snuck it out of my parents' bookshelf and read it anyway because we didn't have any other Stephen King books I could read. So I read it, and like I was like, "Oh, this is why I was not allowed to read this," especially the Lost in the Sewers segment, which has always stuck out to me because It was a very weird way of learning the birds and the bees. I mean, I kind of knew what that was, but then like I'm like, oh my god. Well, I mean, okay, I had read sex in Stephen King books before because I had read The Mist, which has a nonsensical sex segment that we didn't even talk about in Skeleton Crew. That the main character just hooks up with the attractive woman, and they call each other by their spouses' names, which is just sad. It's just I was realizing that when I was editing Skeleton Crew last week, I'm like, oh, we forgot to talk about that. There's so many terrible things in Skeleton Crew to talk about.
It's a
Like,
menagerie of terrible things, one
Yeah.
could say.
oh,
Yeah, we had to focus on the milkman stories.
we had to talk about the Milkman stories, which are the most worthless things, or Mrs. Todd's Shortcut, which is just precursor to Toadash from Wolves of the Kala with interdimensional travel. Or what was Father Callahan toe dashing in Wolves of the Kala? Is that ever confirmed that
Yes.
he's going toe dash, and that's why he was going?
Mhm.
That's why he shows up in Road Work.
Mhm.
I have you read
Yeah,
Road Work, Cody?
I'm trying to remember if I read that one or not.
It's the one where the guy just like loses his mind because his job and house have to be demolished to put in a freeway, and he just like
Oh no! Yes, I read
yeah,
that long
Callahan,
time ago. But yes,
Callahan's in it, but he's not called Callahan. If he's it's the same preacher. Undercover hunting vampires. I'm almost certain of it. Because that's what
I read it,
it
but
says
I'm
he's
pretty sure you're
doing
correct.
in Wolves of the Kala. That's what he was doing. Dealing with his sexuality, which is a weird off thing in Wolves of the Kala. That is a nonsensical thing. I know we're going all over the place, but we just went through Maximo Overdrive. I just want to point that out. You remember, so like there's that whole section of Wolves of the Kala where Callahan explains what happened
Mhm.
to him after Salem's Lot, which it's word for word a retelling of his confrontation with Barlow. It's the same thing. Because I remember listening to it the first time on the road to Montana. I flipped and I put on the Salem's Lot and I went to the chapter and I listened to them both. It is verbatim the same passage. And then like he meets that guy that like works at the like the soup kitchen with him, and like he has like sexual feelings for him, but not. Do you guys remember that? Like he
Yeah, I
I
remember that, but it
vague-
doesn't go anywhere.
it doesn't go
It
anywhere
doesn't go anywhere. No, yeah.
except for his fear of AIDS. That's like the only thing,
That's where that one's from. That
because
one's where that carriage thing. Yes, I remember that.
the vampires when he jumps off and he ends up in the Kala, he ends up because he jumps out that window because the vampires are like, no, we're just gonna give you AIDS. That's nope, and he dives out a window. I mean,
He's got them AIDS vampires.
I would probably do the same thing. But he was, he was the vampire serial killer. Just hunted them. Pre-Buffy. Well, I mean post-Buffy. Buffy was already a show at that point. Because Wolves of the Kala came out in 2003. Although it feels like he wrote that forever. But we'll talk about that 2 seasons from now at this rate. It'll be in like at least 3 years at the rate we're going before we have to read the 3 long Dark Tower books in a row. So they came out in a row, but anyway.
Song of Susanna isn't that long.
It feels long. It feels longer than the 2 that are long. I hate Song of Susanna. I think everyone knows how much I hate that book.
Mhm.
It's the one bad Dark Tower book. I mean, I would read it over Gwendy's Final Task or Holly or what was the Institute or Billy Summers. Like I'd take it over any of those. Or hell, not Bizarre Bad Dreams, Sleeping Beauties, the one he wrote with Owen King.
Can we classify that as mostly an Owen King book?
You know, I would have said no like a year ago, but Owen King really has owned up to that one, and he did because they adapted it to comics recently, and
Mhm.
Owen King did the adaptation himself. So I think it's mostly him, and it's
Yeah,
mostly
because I'm pretty sure
remake.
behind the scenes was literally Owen having the idea and writing it, and then he came to his dad and was like, "Can you help me with this?"
Yeah, and like he did his fatherly duty of helping his son out. I still think that Stephen King and Joe Hill should write a book together. Or hell, if there is going to be a Talisman 3, I would like Joe Hill to help write it.
Hmm.
Because he has the young enough spark that the Talisman needs. Because that's the
I
problem with
mean,
Black
Jack
House.
Sawyer would now also be an old man.
He would, but you could add a younger character in.
Hmm.
Because that's the problem with Black House. It's it's just a trial run for Dr. Sleep. I'm still of that opinion. Because Stephen King likes to remake his stories if he didn't care for them the first time. I mean, Willie the Weirdo is a prime example of that. That came out this year. Well, it came out a few years ago, but it got put in You Like It Darker. And it's the same as Grandma. They're the same story. It's just Willie the Weirdo is a little more interesting. I'm not going to say either are good. I think we can agree on that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, Willie the Weirdo and his obsession with looking at dead animals for some reason. He's a nothing character. That's his character trait. Is he looks at dead animals. That's his character.
Mhm.
What a great character.
But aren't you hyped for his next book?
Always
Probably next year. Always Holly.
he no. I just can't wait for when Holly was always a gunslinger. Holly is Roland. That's the reincarnation when he
I
gets reborn at the tower.
I want to point this out. King has made like numerous hints on Twitter and stuff that he's really thinking about Midworld and Dark Tower. So I'm actually kind of afraid what he's gonna do there.
Well, I mean, they did that with Wendy's Final Task dealt with that.
Yes, which was bizarre. It was the most bizarre King book. I think it still is, just because that's the only one where he literally goes to space.
Well, I mean, there was the Jaunt
Yeah, but that's a short
in
story,
Beach World. Again, short story. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to point out Gwendy's Final Task. It's set in 2026. COVID is still killing the world. You know.
Oh yeah, because that's his obsession with COVID. I wonder if he leaves his house anymore.
Wasn't he just on I want to say Conan O'Brien earlier this year, but
Maybe.
it could have been
Uh,
last year.
I mean, he did. He was on Colbert.
He was on Colbert,
Not the Colbert Report, but the because
the late
Colbert has the Late Show. Yeah.
the show. Yeah,
Um.
no, that maybe
I
that
think
was
he
it.
was recently. I think he was recently at like a convention or something with Joe.
Okay. He
I
does
think
do
they were both at a place.
because he moved out of his house in Maine because that's now like you
Mhm.
can actually rent that and stay at it.
He turned his house into an Airbnb.
I don't think he owns it anymore. I think he straight up sold it and someone else turned it into that because he wants to live in Florida because that's his new obsession is Florida. Because I think that's where he stays most of the time. Although they're probably up in Maine now because of the storms.
I was about to ask, like, the only times I hear about Florida here is it's getting destroyed every couple of months or something.
Well, yeah, it's a bad hurricane season. It's not even just Florida. North Carolina got wrecked, and they normally don't get hit with storms like that.
Yeah, I think it's like Georgia, Florida, and the Carolinas are just. It's this whole hurricane season this year started off really quiet and slow. Everyone's like, "Are we not hurricanes this year?" And then Helena just like, actually, I'm here.
Yeah, that was wild. I won't even get. There's so many political things on top of that that I won't get into on this podcast because it's just a mess. It's just upsetting and a mess right now. But I mean, this what was the hurricane that hit uh New England years ago? Like when we were in
Sandy?
Sandy. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
another, like, really wild one where it went and hit, like, the New England
New,
area, which is even more north of that, like New York and stuff.
it hit New York, yeah, because I remember it flooded like Manhattan and all the subways were shut down,
Mhm.
which was
That doesn't
wild.
normally happen. No, usually Florida gets hit because Florida's a peninsula. People should not live in Florida. I stand by that. Or if you're going to live in Florida, live in the panhandle part of Florida. Don't live out on the peninsula. No one should live on a peninsula if they can avoid it. It's a terrible idea.
Same reason why Baja gets hit every year of hurricanes.
Yeah. Yeah, don't live
They're
don't
Baja is
live
the one on the West Coast. Baja is the one that absorbs all the hurricanes in the Pacific. So California is relatively free from them, except last year during their West Coast hurricane season, which usually happens in the spring, other than like late summer. San Diego got hit by the aftermath of that. I don't remember what it was named, but it got hit. Mind you, no one gave a shit about it, but it got hit.
Oh yeah, California's too busy being catching on fire to like to worry about anything like that. But anyway, I think we should call it there with the podcast. Although I will say to circle back to it, Wendy's final task confirms that Pennywise didn't die, so it is pointless. And he will
Yep.
never probably deal with that again, which is really frustrating. I'm very thankful a lot of people don't know about Wendy's final task because I think there would have been a huge outcry and everyone would have been upset. Um, it's like you know what it reminds me
I mean,
of?
that's also the book. That's also the book that turns Randall Flagg into a good guy.
Well, that was Button Box did that.
You could like headcanon it why he's doing what he's doing, but with Final Task, it's confirmed that he's a good guy.
Yeah. It's like the only thing I can equate it to is Hannibal, the third Lecter novel, where Hannibal's kind of a good guy at times. And I say at times, he's still villainous. Like,
Hmm.
but you're supposed to kind of feel bad for him now. Which did you guys know that Stephen King thinks that Hannibal is better than Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon?
Yep, that's the quote they use like on the cover.
That is like, dare I say, he's the king of being a contrarian. He's worse.
Oh, have you seen that? Have you seen that interview by Harlan Ellison? I think. He was asked about like why he doesn't give like quotes to like books by authors and stuff that they can put on the cover, and he's like, I don't like doing this because he mentioned Stephen King as a comparison, who will give a positive quote on any book if you ask him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man of the
Stephen,
people.
I just think he likes to stir the pot for the sake of stirring the pot. That's why he
He
writes
is.
the Holly books. It's just to upset people because no one wants that other than him.
He does seem like he comes off as a kind of a person that would enjoy sitting on the side of an on ramp and waiting for car crashes.
He just like I think the older he gets, the more the contrarian comes out. Because I mean, we read Dance Macabre, which every
Oh.
decade gets like another introduction, and he just keeps them layered. That book has what, 6 introductions now? It's just ridiculous.
The
And
introductions could be their own novel.
he says that last
This just reminded me. There's a new introduction coming out for On Writing as well.
Oh no, that's right. We talked about that.
No.
Oh god, what is he
I didn't know about that.
With the new paperback release, apparently. So we have
What?
to get that one.
So
Which I want to point out, that's the reason stuff like that sucks. That is not going to get translated in my country because the book is already in print, and they're not going to create like a new version of it.
yeah, I don't get why he has to. Well, he hasn't done. This will be the first time he's done this with On Writing. With Dance Macabre, I mean, that is infamous for him saying that the remake of Last House on the Left is better than the original. He does say that. And then he says that Blair, what is he? I'm trying to remember what he said the Blair Witch is the scariest movie ever made. Okay.
Which that's a fine opinion to have because he also explains he saw it when he was in the hospital and stuff, and it creeped him out. He watched it with Joe. Okay, sure.
Oh, he says that the remake of Dawn of the Dead is better than the original.
Oh yeah.
That is said in there, and that he's really excited for Zombieland because the last time he updated was 2010, and I'm very thankful he hasn't done another. Because Dance Macabre is just him drunkenly writing about horror, and it's just nonsensical and awful. There's literally one chapter you should read in that, and that is his autobiography about his childhood. It's the only thing interesting in that book, and I said that this season. That's the reason to read Dance Macabre. Is just read that. Otherwise, it's his worst of his. Did you just rip your book?
The book, it just fell. I opened it up and the page fell out. This is like I think one of the first printings of Night Shift from the 70s.
Oh, it has the hand.
The hand, yeah.
That's a good story. I can't remember what that story is called. But anyway, all right. I think
I am the doorway.
I am the doorway. So anyway, what would we rank Maximum Overdrive?
Are we ranking it based on?
I give it a 5 out of 5 because it's funny. It's one of the funniest, like, so bad it's good movies out there. I mean, the gold standard will always be Zardoz. I think that is the funniest film that has ever been created. This is probably a good 3rd or 4th place in that because Glenn Danzig did make Veronica, which almost dethroned. It almost dethroned Zardoz. So that movie is so horrible because Glenn Danzig wanted to make his own version of Creepshow with porn actors.
It's a very Glenn Danzig thing to do, though.
Yeah, his second movie is not worth watching. I mean, there's no music in it at all.
Yeah,
it
isn't.
It's awful. Don't watch it.
It's so terrible. I was trying to remember if I saw that. Then you said no music. I'm like, oh, yo, that's the one.
Yeah. What was
it's the vampire western with no sound.
Yes, he tried to make a spaghetti western that isn't filmed in Italy.
Without the spaghetti? With no spaghetti?
It's not filmed in Italy. It's not filmed like a spaghetti western. It's filmed like a Glenn Danzig movie. But bad. I mean, it's worse than Veronica, and I didn't think that was possible. But it's not funny. Like, it's just kind of like confusing. It's like being confused for like 2 or 3 hours. I can't remember how long it is. It feels like 10.
It's long. It's
a very long.
I completely forgot about that movie, mostly because there's really not much to remember. But the things that I do remember was that at the end, I asked, who was I? I think I watched it with Steve. Steve
didn't watch
Salmons.
it with me. I watched that by myself in misery.
Yeah, no, I watched it with someone in that group, and I just remember both of us were like, "Oh, okay, well, there's an afternoon gone."
Yeah. It's just a waste of time. But I mean, I'm trying to think, is this better than Sleepaway Camp? Apparently, people think Sleepaway Camp is a good movie
Hmm.
because it does a lot of gender reversal, which, okay, that's, it is neat for that. But the acting is so bad in Sleepaway Camp that I think it's slightly better than Maximum Overdrive. But the Maximum Overdrive, if you want to put on some garbage that you're going to laugh at, it's well worth your time.
It's how I usually introduce it to people. I'm like, you guys want to see a comedy movie that's masquerading as a horror movie?
If you want to see everyone overact, this is the movie for you.
Yeah, I mean, this movie has everything. It has a good soundtrack, it has creative kills, it has Lisa Simpson, Emilio Estevez, Stephen King's directorial debut, and I hope
Man pooping.
a man pooping.
Man
You
pooping.
gotta believe them. You gotta really emphasize that the Green Goblin shows up. Okay.
Yeah, the Green Goblin is a truck.
This was Stephen King's attempt at the first Marvel movie, and I think it deserves some recognition for it.
I mean, it's better than a lot of the Marvel movies, in my opinion. It's more entertaining.
Yeah.
I'd take this over Doctor Strange too.
Trying to remember if on this anywhere it says that the Green Goblin is property of Marvel.
Oh no,
I
it
think
won't. I don't think
I
it
felt
will.
like I saw that somewhere. I saw it somewhere. I just don't know where.
I would guess they just treat it as like generic goblin face.
Yes.
Also, Jeremy, you just made me think. Imagine they get Stephen King to direct the third Doctor Strange. I mean, he knows all about multiverses, with Dark Tower.
What if there's a universe where Doctor Strange is actually just Stephen King? I'm just
what kind of Dark Tower land are we playing in with that one?
I don't know, but the cape does its own thing, and the cape. He's like, "Honey, the cape called me an asshole." That's his cameo. But anyway, have a good one, everyone. There.